Subscribe.
We'll highlight all that. Don't you worry.
Just
But
saying, you gotta remind people.
Subscribe right now.
Subscribe.
Of course.
Philadelphia, baby, you're gonna love it. Best sports fans in the world. Actually, the worst, but that's what makes them the best.
Welcome into the Get in the Hole podcast. Stephen McAvoy, Ben Pirro, back on tour. Ben was telling me about how he has to retire from BeerMoney. We'll talk all about that on the other side of the show. Really awesome show coming in to you guys this week. Special interview with Ryan French, the official MondayQInfo. DM'd him on Monday after we had gotten word of the Rory McIlroy comments, and I was like, yo, we need to get you on. Because obviously, as somebody who covers this sport from the lower tiers of golf, quite impoverished as somebody who wants the best guys to show out, being the second next generation, and guys like Ben, and to basically ultimately get spat in the face and say, no, we should limit tour events. It's absolutely ridiculous. We're sponsored here on the Get in the Hole podcast and every day by our friends over at Acorn Hills, bringing you the stylish apparel for on and off the course, all using biodegradable packaging and plantable clothing tags. Acorn Hills is changing the clothing game through conservation. Use code GITH15 for 15% off your next order at acornhillsco.com and look your best from the ground up. We're also sponsored by Tomahawk Shades, the best small batch eyewear in the industry, founded on Long Island, rep by some of the biggest personalities in sports, including Chris Hogan, Kyle Harrison, new Marlins bench coach John Jay, and golf's favorite golfer, Paige Sporadic. Tomahawk Shades is guaranteed to keep you looking fresh from the first hole to the 18th green and beyond. Go to tomahawkshades.com or download the Tomahawk Shades app on the App Store or Google Play Store. Browse their selection of sunglasses, blue light glasses, and prescription lenses, including these right here. And be sure to use code USP for 25% off your next order. Ben, welcome back. You're rocking the all red, or is this, it's like Bloody Monday?
No, honestly, I hopped out of the shower and I had to put something on. And I'm a Mets fan, but the Cincinnati sports teams will always have a special place in my heart because I went to school in the lovely city of Cincinnati. In my opinion, one of the most underappreciated cities I've ever been to, and I had the privilege of living there for 2.5 years. So if you ever get the chance to go check out Cincinnati. If you like beer, they have a lot of breweries, and the Reds are going to be pretty good. And as long as Joe Burrow stays healthy, the Bengals will be pretty good. So I have a special place in my heart for Cincinnati sports, unless it's the Cincinnati Bearcats. In that case, Xavier University absolutely owns them.
What's your opinion on
except in men's golf, hilariously enough.
Wow, completely just shafting your own college team there.
You know what, man? Hey, man, like my job, it's to be honest for the people. I need to be honest, because if I'm not honest, then that it makes me less credible. And so I want to put on a good face and a brave face when I say that University of Cincinnati absolutely owns Xavier men's golf. I have no shame in saying that at all.
I hear you.
None.
I hear you. I drove through Cincinnati once, actually. I was at a fraternity conference in Miami, Ohio.
Okay.
The home of Ben Roethlisberger. It's quite the interesting place. It was negative 10 degrees.
Yes.
The town was very much not what I'm used to in New York. And I wound up driving through Cincinnati. Did I fly out of Cincinnati? No, I flew to Dayton.
Okay.
Also a pretty city that I visited, Dayton, and the University of Dayton's a nice spot. Always wanted to go back and watch the first four once the tournament rolls around. Anyways, I'm digressing. We're going deep into things. Oh, mother of God! While it might not be Bloody Monday for you, it was Bloody Sunday for Scottie Scheffler. That's called a segue. Scottie Scheffler runs it back because the first back-to-back Players Champion. Fun fact: this was the first time since 1960 that a player won back-to-back weeks, and a different player came runner-up in back-to-back weeks, that being Wyndham Clark.
Wow.
Hasn't happened since 1960 and Arnold Palmer. That's how odd of an oddity this is. But there were a lot of oddities going on at TPCC Sawgrass this weekend at the Players Championship. Of course, Scottie runs it back. Wyndham Clark had a lip-out putt that he was absolutely in shock and awe about. We were talking about Brian Harmon, how he very well had an easy opportunity to go birdie, 16, 17 on soft conditions and take away the win from Scottie. He didn't get to go. And, of course, we have somebody else who we're going to talk about in 5 minutes that very well might be the most down on his luck golfer on the PGA Tour when it comes to just being unable to find the winner's circle. I want to start with Scottie, though, because we talked about it last week and mentioned how much we already know this. Scottie Scheffler can very well win any event if the putter's on. And last week went through putter adjustments, figured out the mallet was his go-to, figured out his weighting and everything else. 2 straight weeks, the strokes gained putting leader in both Bay Hill and the Players. The sky's the limit at this point for Scottie Scheffler. He's now the odds-on favorite at 5-1 to win the Masters. Do we think that over the next 2 weeks, if he even does play an event leading up to Augusta, that we see Scottie Scheffler win one more time or even win now as we look forward to the Masters?
I mean, it's certainly possible. I don't really think – I think he should play another event because in the game of golf, when you're on a heater, that's the best time to play, right? Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, look, in golf, there isn't really a bad time to play because if you're missing cuts, you have to play because you have to make money and keep your tour card. But when you're on a heater like he is, I mean, he's been putting on a clinic. And what made it actually, I believe he has a neck injury. He had a neck injury as well, which makes this event and like this win at this course, shooting a nice little 64 in the final round, that much more impressive. I think he probably. Look, if I were him, I would just go to Innisbrook and I would just say, yeah, I'm going to play. And if it doesn't win, then it's like, all right, I'm just going to take some time off before Augusta. It's possible we see him again. I highly doubt it, though. He's in major season form now. There's no question about that. He's figured out the putting issues. He still hits it just as good. This is probably everyone's worst nightmare who plays on the PGA Tour because I do not believe there is anyone on the PGA Tour that can catch him when he's playing this well. I just don't. Mm-hmm. I genuinely don't believe that. And I understand, like, he kind of came from out of nowhere. But, I mean, he smoked guys at Bay Hill. And he came from out of nowhere, albeit very scoreable soft conditions at TPC Sawgrass, but historically, it's a very, very difficult golf course. This is everyone's worst nightmare on the PGA Tour because, yeah, we've had a lot of first-time winners. Honestly, the closest as far as current ability within their game right now is probably Wyndham Clark. Mm-hmm. And that's not incredibly intimidating if you're Scottie Scheffler. I understand Wyndham Clark, he won an elevated event this year, he won the US Open last year, but
Mickey Mouse win.
Yes. That's true. It is. It's true.
Being brutally honest here. Come on.
It is. I just think it's so stupid that's an elevated event. I'd love to know the percentage of time they've actually finished that event and played all 72 holes. I digress. Rory's not playing well. He's really not. No. Is Xander. We're about to talk about him in 5 seconds. He's having a tough time closing wins. So as of right now, Max Homa's not really playing too hot either. Ricky's not playing that great. Will Zalatoris, we still cross the fingers about the back. I mean, who's really challenging Scottie Scheffler right now?
Yeah.
Brian Harmon, yeah, I guess he could, but I don't know. I think Augusta might be a tough fit for him because at Augusta, it favors a right to left shot, which for a righty is a draw. well, he's a lefty and he hits a left to right shot, which is a draw. So he kind of shapes it like quote unquote the wrong way. Not saying you can't win with a fade at Augusta. We've seen it before, but man, unless someone from Liv catches fire, which I mean, it would kind of be up to someone from Liv, like Rahm, the defending champ at Augusta.
Joaquin Niemann.
Yeah, Niemann, Koepka, who seems to always play well at Augusta, with the exception of a couple years. Maybe Dustin, because he is a past champion. But he is by far and away the best player in the world right now. And that's, in my opinion, that's including Jon Rahm. And I know the metrics aren't the same because it's Liv, but I'm very bullish now on Scottie Scheffler. He has now sold me.
Believe it or not, and you bring up a great point, the 4 hottest golfers in the game, regardless of where you are affiliated to, is in order: Scottie Scheffler, Wyndham Clark, Joaquin Niemann, Ludwig Oberg, and Sam Burns. When you look at the microcosm of golf, Scottie Scheffler, and we can critique the mechanicalness of his golf shot, which is uber weird, but no one compares as the hitter, as the ball striker, and as of right now, the putter that Scottie Scheffler is, with the exception of Joaquin Niemann, in my opinion. I think Wyndham Clark is very close. But again, like it all comes down to feel any given week. Wyndham Clark's gone 3 straight weeks where he's gone plus on strokes gained off the tee to negative to plus. And it all varies because there's one part of his game that isn't on. Scottie Scheffler for the last 3 weeks has been completely on in every single category, and the putting game has soared so far beyond. I remember when Colin Morikawa was at his, I'm not even going to say peak, but there was a time, I think it was last year or 2 years ago at the Genesis, when they were like, Colin Morikawa can easily win this event. He's top 5 in every single metric, but he's lost 7 strokes per event, the last 3 events on the greens. And it didn't help him at all. He wound up missing the cut by 1.5 miles that week. But it's the same song and dance. Once all parts of your game are going, there's no stopping you. And yeah, you can give Joaquin Niemann some slack because he plays on LIVGolf. Sure, you could say that. And I was just watching Full Swing for the first time. I sat down finally eating dinner tonight to watch it. And the whole first episode was focused in around the Masters and the PGA Championship. And it was all interviewing Rory. And it was like, oh, like, it was basically Rory versus Brooks. And I was like, all right, Rory doesn't want someone on LIV to win a major because it was going to cause the rift. And it was further separating, okay, the PGA Tour guys are the gold standard versus the LIV guys. And that was basically the story of last year, right? And then when the Masters came around, it was the first time that both had played in an event together. Well, Brooks Koepka at the Masters, Phil Mickelson, they all proved that they were very much here to stay. Patrick Reed finished 4th at that event. Yeah. Just because Joaquin Niemann plays on LIV does not mean by any stretch of the imagination that Joaquin Niemann cannot come out at Augusta National, or, to be quite honest, if he was to randomly appear and play the Valspar this week, obviously it won't happen, that he could very well beat the entire field by 4 strokes. That's most certainly in the cards here. I think Scheffler, if he plays one more event, may play the Valero, being that he's a Texas guy. At least went to college there. But I do think that one more event is in the cards. If he wins that, I honestly can very well see him going another week into the Masters and exploding. I'm gonna pump the brakes though on the idea that you can just give him the Masters now, because there is competition there, but it's not nearly as intimidating in a given year as last year. I think there was like 7 or 8 guys who were alive to win going in. As of right now, I don't think Sam Burns being the 5th best golfer on the planet is very intimidating for a guy like Scottie Scheffler. So that's kind of where I stand on it. Speaking of guys who are quote unquote intimidating, of course, Rory has been, by the way, the underwhelming golfer of the year. This past week was Rory McIlroy's first top 20 of 2024, and he finished 19th. Abysmal from Rory McIlroy. Yeah, right. Punch in the face moment.
I think, man, he just does not. I think he's probably, I don't want to read too far into it because obviously I'm not in his inner circle. Neither are you. Part of our job is to kind of, what's that?
How do you know?
Because I know. I think he's just like, he might just be like genuinely tired. I think honestly, I think he's probably like with the circus that is the PGA Tour and Live and the PIF. I think he's just probably exhausted. I mean, it looks like the last couple years he's aged so much. I mean, he's basically has like, hey, look, man, I'm 25. I found a gray hair about a month ago, and I was freaking out. Okay.
Don't worry, you're still handsome.
Thanks, man. He looks old. He does not look 35. Honestly, he looks closer to 40. In my opinion, I just think he looks exhausted. I think he needs, if I were him, I would probably take a week off and just not do anything and then get ready for Augusta. And I feel like that's probably the most important event to him at this point in his career, because that's really like the one big one that he hasn't won. You know, he's still going for the career Grand Slam.
Yeah.
And I don't want to spend too much time on this, but if I were him, look, man, he looks exhausted. He also looks miserable, which he kind of always looks miserable when he's not winning. Like, I understand that a little bit because it's golf and it can be very frustrating, but he needs to, like, I don't know, man, like, get some rest, sleep, like, just catch up on some sleep. He looks exhausted.
Yeah, we're digressing a lot here, but I think it segues well kind of into what we're chatting. So I don't know if you caught the two drop events that occurred this week between Rory's ball and Wyndham Clark's ball in the final round. But Rory took a drop that he claimed that, all right, this is where I went out. So he drops it. Victor Hovland gets involved. He goes, are you sure? Are we okay with this drop? Then Jordan Spieth comes in to play mediator on the whole thing. I don't know if you caught it.
I saw it. Yeah, at the end of the day, like, it really is, my understanding is it's the player who hit the ball. It's really his decision.
Mm-hmm.
And what I do to avoid any conflict is, if I hit a ball in the water, you know, I will say, this is where I think it crossed. Are you guys good with this?
Yeah.
And I've never had someone say, no, I'm not good with that. I just think maybe it was like a little bit of like a lack of communication. I wouldn't read too much into it. Rory wasn't trying to like pull a fast one on anybody. That's kind of a normal discussion. I mean, maybe look, the one thing I would do differently is, because I know he asked them, are you okay with this? Did Victor ask him, like, did Victor like raise an eyebrow and then Rory asked?
Yes. So
if I were Rory, I would have said, hey, you guys are good with this? That way everyone's on the same page and it's a non-factor. But he wasn't trying to pull a fast one. It's a non-story.
I thought the Rory drop was interesting, but the Wyndham Clark drop, and again, something that like very much went under the radar this week. Final round, I forget which hole it was, but he's stepping around in the grass, like in the rough, trying to determine his drop. And it's like 2 minutes could go by. And he's walking around this patch of grass and conveniently drops his ball right in the area that he's been stepping on for 2 minutes, clearly leaving an impression of a flattening the ground. That I thought was probably the most egregious part, and it completely took me off the Wyndham train to hopefully make this an event. Again, something that I'm not sure if you caught, but I thought it was something that really kind of slipped under the rug. And the only person who I saw tweet about it was, oh God, I don't even, might have been Brandel Chambly, who was like, is this all right? Like, are we doing this right now? Particularly when you're down by 2 strokes going into the final 4.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, there's always like, I've seen shady shit happen. It's really,
everyone does it.
Like, I don't, but look, I mean, I've seen shady shit happen before, like even in junior events. Like, I remember like what kids would do if they hit a ball in the fescue. Fescue, it's thick grass, right? So they would just like, they would take like practice swings behind the ball and in front of the ball, and to like make a path for their club to move appropriately. There's been stories like this with like Patrick Reed. when he was like grounding his club in the waste bunker. I remember Brooks Koepka told the story one time. I think it was on like Sirius XM, where a guy like took out a 3-wood and he was like kind of like whacking behind the ball, like trying to get it to like almost like sit up or create like a little bit of help for the ball to get up. A lot of guys do that shit. It's unfortunate, it is what it is. Unfortunately, I definitely see where you're coming from, and I mean, geez, I think guys are going to be watching him a lot more closely now if he ever takes a drop. I know I would be.
Definitely, and it's interesting because like, not to raise the question here, but he's the second, arguably right now, the second best player in the world. I would even say he's probably based on, if you were to like the OWGR obviously isn't a metric that we use anymore, but like Data Golf has him right now as the 10th best golfer in the world. He's fourth in the eyes of the OWGR. I think he's accurately listed around like 10 or 9. But you wonder how he's gotten here through basically a 1-year blow up post US Open. If there has been any shady shit we haven't been seeing. Anyhow, the story though of the week comes by way of Xander Schauffele, and this is the last thing I want to talk about here from the players specifically. And Xander is a magnificent case study in whether or not you want to say it's a matter of he doesn't have the clutch gene, which you can very well bring up. I know we've talked about this multiple times on this show, particularly with the wrong people, but when it comes to Xander Schauffele's game over the last 4, 5, 6 years, with the exception of an Olympic gold medal and a tour championship in 2018, I think it was, Xander Schauffele has been a very underwhelming player in the sense that he hasn't been able to win a major big time tournament. He has 13 career runner-ups at this point, and 6 of them have come in either majors, the players, or what is now considered an elevated event. And like, he doesn't just not close out events, he just loses them outright. In 2021 at the Masters, dunked it on 16 and fell to Hideki Matsuyama. In 2019, 2020 at the Open, had a 3-shot lead, went 3 over and completely blew it. He got edged out by Tiger Woods in 2019 at the Masters. He almost lost out on the Travelers against Sahith Theegala. He happened to have gotten a better draw than Theegala did and managed to scrape out because Theegala made bogey on the final hole. And now in this instance makes bogey on 14, 15 and completely washes away a 1-stroke lead on Scottie Scheffler to once again finish outside of the top, outside of the winning position. Like, what's going to happen here for Xander Schauffele to get off the schneid? Or is he just simply down on his luck?
I don't think he's on it. I don't think he's like in a slump. I think he's had a very good career. I would not say it's been underwhelming. I think that's pretty harsh.
I think it's the wrong word to use, but in terms of his inability to close, it's certainly it's a big question mark.
He's won 7 times in the gold medal. He knows how to close. There are a lot of guys with a lot of runner-up finishes. A lot of guys with a lot of runner-up finishes. I mean, Phil finished runner-up at the U.S. Open 5 times.
Jack's got 19, I think, in majors.
Yeah, I mean, those two are pretty clutch. I think. It just doesn't always. I have a lot of runner-ups in my golf career. Like there's nothing to do with trying to close the tournament. Sometimes people just play better, and I think like he finished runner up at the 2019 Masters. He shot 4 under in the final round. Like, what do you want from him? He got beat out by the GOAT. At Carnoustie, it's freaking Carnoustie. It's one of the hardest courses over in the UK to play, and it's the Open Championship where the weather is completely unpredictable. And where you can hit a shot that isn't so bad and it ends up in a terrible spot. You could also hit a terrible shot and it ends up okay because that's how links golf is. So I think he's going to end. He'll get a major. He'll get 1 or 2 majors. He's having a really good year. I wouldn't read too far into it. I really wouldn't. It's not like he went out and shot 76 yesterday.
Oh yeah.
You know, like it's not, seriously. So, look, I mean, and as scoreable as 16 and 17 can be, they can be just as diabolical as well. So, that's all I have to say.
There's an interesting trend in Xander Schauffele's game that I think really is kind of the glaring point here. And not for nothing, he's one of the best approach players in the game's history. He's one of the best players off the tee. He's an accurate driver of the ball. He's a very good golfer overall. And I'm not going to knock him for that by any means. But of course, you're measured by your victories and not by your losses. So when it comes to not having a major and having 5 runner-ups in majors at only age 29 or age 30, it's certainly a question mark on your career at where you're going to end up once you do wind up calling it quits. The approach game has been incredible for years now. And again, he's as much of a top 5 lock in big-time events as you can basically have him be. Over the last 6 events, he's finished 3rd at the American Express, top 10 at the Farmers, top 5 at the Genesis, and now 2nd at the Players. Even prior to that, finished 2nd at the Tour Final, both on aggregate and off aggregate. And then at the BMW, finished 8th. He's been a mold of consistency, but the inability to close ultimately comes down to the putter, which I think is the most crazy part of things. That his approach game, he averages 1.6 strokes gained on approach. Off the tee, he's averaging about 1, and then around the green, it's about a half to 3/4. The putter, though, with the exception of this past week where he finished runner-up and he actually gained 1.5 strokes putting, he always seems to fall off, gaining 0.1, 0.6, lost a stroke at the Farmers, which took him off a top 3 finish to send him down to T9. Lost strokes at Pebble Beach, lost strokes at the Century again. Top 5 finish, dropped back to top 10 because he lost less than a stroke putting. Like, these numbers tend to trend towards him not being able to close solely because of his ability on the green. And even then, it's not really a bad ability to begin with. He's only losing maybe at the most 1 stroke per time. I think he's very much down on his luck, and I know Twitter ripped into him a lot this week. It's kind of unfortunate because you're right, he can win. He does have the ability to do it. It's just whenever the stage is the biggest, he always seems to kind of crumble. And I guess, the 2019 Masters is an outlier. He shot 4 under and he lost to Tiger Woods. So did Brooks Koepka that week. So did DJ. So whatever. But even on the hardest of golf courses, you can't say, oh, it's the golf course's fault that he didn't play well. It comes down to the Indian, not the arrow. And I think
I'm not saying it's the golf course. I'm just
but you're saying he's losing at a challenging course like Sawgrass, like Carnoustie, like Augusta. I think that's the biggest thing, is that I think there might be something wrong with his mental, that he just can't seem to, or maybe he's playing too conservative. I don't really know. But there's something about his game that I think is warranting question marks, particularly now that Twitter's even taking notice at the fact that he can't seem to close out wins.
Okay. I'm going to say this one more time. I wasn't making excuses for the golf course. Okay. Yeah. I'm just giving you factual information that links golf is some of the most diabolical golf you ever played.
I understand. Yes.
And on top of that, he's playing well in big time events. I never said that it was, the golf course that he did that the Players, which is why he didn't win. I simply said he's been beat out numerous times by people who have just simply played better than him. Okay. And when you're at an elevated event like the Players or in, the Masters, which I know is an elevated event, but it's the same thing, basically. Those are the best players in the world. And so it's really easy to get beat out by somebody who just happens to play better than you. A couple strokes here, a couple putts here. Yeah, that can happen. There's nothing wrong with his mental. If there was something wrong with his mental, he'd end up like Smiley Kaufman.
Yeah.
Okay. There's nothing wrong with his mental. You don't win a gold medal by being mentally weak. You don't win 7 times in the PGA Tour by being mentally weak. There's nothing to do with it. So people need to shut their mouths on Twitter because, those are the people that never did it. So honestly, what do they know? So that's all I have to say.
I find it interesting that, like, Xander Schauffele is a very talented player, and like I said, it's like the best comparative that I was thinking about it earlier today, like Tony Finau when he was playing for the last, I don't know, 5 or 6 years prior to the Northern Trust in 2019, just couldn't get off the schneid. He won at the Puerto Rico in 2015 and then just didn't get a win. But every single week you saw him top 20, top 20, top 20. And I was like, when's he going to finally get up there? And again, the same issue that Xander Schauffele is facing, which at least the stat trend shows, was that Tony Finau was not even subpar, but just average with the putter, and it didn't get much better. And it wasn't until 2020 when he changed his putting style that all of a sudden the wins started to come on. And then next thing you know, he won, I think, 3 out of 5 events, I think, in the back half of the year leading up to the Tour final, I think in 2021. So that right there just goes to show you, like, players figure it out. I think Xander will figure it out. The guy's just simply down on his luck. I think that's kind of the premise here. Moving on to, I don't even want to talk about it. I really don't. But Jay Monahan met with the media, of course, as Sawgrass is the headquarters of the PGA Tour, to give the State of the Union for the PGA Tour. He had various quotes, various discussions, various points, a lot of which came around the idea of what's going on between the PGA Tour and LIVGolf, the PIF, and so on. We'll get to that in a little bit, but made reassurances that this is the best tour in the world. Apparently, a report came out that he was asked to resign back in December, according to Keith Van Valkenburg. A lot has gone down, and then on top of that, Victor Hovland, shortly before Monahan came on, openly criticized his leadership and said that there might need to be a change in order sometime soon. Of course, there's the ongoing discussion with a merger with the PIF, the PGA Tour for-profit entity, which he is already confirmed as the head of. Almost seems like he's never going to be able to get out of his seat. But do you have any thoughts on his comments and what he had said this week at his presser?
No, he doesn't deserve my the amount of time it would take for me to put a sentence together. I've had enough of him. Xander said the same thing. Xander said he didn't trust him, right?
Yeah.
You know what he said? So I don't know what it is with this country, man, and State of the Unions. I mean, Biden's was just him yelling into the microphone, and then
I have a bone to pick with Joe Biden, by the way.
I didn't want to say it, but and then Monahan, it's just I can't take the guy seriously. I can't take him seriously.
I have a bone to pick with Joe Biden and his State of the Union. So Kay and I have gotten into this new show on Fox called Farmer Wants a Wife.
Oh yeah, okay.
Great show. Need to watch it. Bunch of down home hicks. Not even really hicks. They're all like actual like nice guys, but they're all trying to find a wife, and like these girls from like Yonkers and Manhattan are like showing up in high heels to like a goat farm and are expected to work. It's a very funny show. Turns out the Joe Biden State of the Union forced the show to skip a week. So Kay and I have been watching it on Hulu TV a week behind. We didn't get our episode, and I'm like, what the fuck? I didn't get to watch my show. I have my coffee ready. I was very excited. I sound like a 40-year-old man. I sound like I'm literally an old retiree. Anyhow, I want to actually make a note here on the on Hovland's comments too on Monahan real fast. So Xander had said earlier in the week that he didn't trust Jay Monahan in the way that things have been handled. Victor came out and said, and I quote, "There were some things that were said that have been walked back on, and then things that have been very contradictory. As a leader of an organization, I will want a person that likes to take some ownership and say, hey, we made a couple mistakes, but this is how we're going to rectify it, instead of kind of sweeping it under the rug, which I felt like has been done to a certain degree. I don't mind people making mistakes. We all make mistakes, but I think when you make a mistake, you have to own up to it and say, hey, we're trying to do better, and this is how we're going to do it. It clearly hasn't happened here." On the other side of this show, our interview with Ryan French was really great. I asked him at the very end of the interview does Jay Monahan need to go? And without a doubt, without any hesitation, said, yeah. Like, it's gotten to a point where what dirt does he have on people? What does he know that no one else knows? Why is he in the place that he is? Who's he paying off? I'm so curious as to what's going on in the room with Jay Monahan to see what exactly the deal is. I know we're supposed to talk about this on the other side, but we actually just got some breaking news in the world of golf. Bring on the clip. So the not-so-secret meeting that occurred between the PGA and PIF happened this morning in Albany, Bahamas, and I've never seen more coverage around where planes are going to than I did on Twitter today. There were planes that they had logged for John Henry, for Yasir Al-Rumayyan, for Jay Monahan. They were even tracking Tiger Woods' boat. He apparently has an underwater vessel that he took to the Bahamas. I don't know why. But we do have some breaking news now in following that. Jay Monahan sent out a statement to tour members citing a constructive conversation today with PIF Governor Yasir Al-Rumayyan during what the PGA Tour is calling its due diligence process for its selection process for PGA Tour enterprise investors. Monahan says that there are no further comments as negotiations continue, but we can, in fact, divulge that the PIF is essentially on the 5-yard line with getting on with the PGA Tour, as well as additional investors, to come to an agreement. When that will happen is to be undecided. But yeah, the meeting was not secret whatsoever, even though it was supposed to be kept under wraps.
It just shows the fact that it was supposed to be kept under wraps. Just shows the dysfunction that is the PGA Tour
and the inability to actually keep things quiet.
That too.
Don't we love that?
Yeah,
it's great.
Yeah,
we're gonna take a short break. On the other side, we'll break down the Valspar Championship, a little bit of things, some of the things that you can look forward to and what you need to know. And of course, we got some beer money in our interview with Ryan French. Welcome to our folks, Steve and Ben here from the Underground here on Underground Sports Philadelphia.
Get in the Hole is brought to you by PHI Apparel Company, our incredible merch partners. PHI Apparel Co. provides unique designs and high-quality clothing from t-shirts to hoodies for every golfer around. With their original designs for all, there's no doubt you'll stand out on the course, the driving range, or at the 19th hole. Go to phiapparel.co and use code UNDERGROUND at checkout for 10% off any order. That's code UNDERGROUND at phiapparel.co and grab exclusive Get in the Hole podcast merch and support your favorite golfers.
Ben, you look a little down.
I'm exhausted. Okay? I'm exhausted. I have to go see my doctor tomorrow at 8:20 in the morning to get my ankle looked at so I can get imaging done on it, because it's been a long process and I still haven't eaten dinner, so I'm really tired. And I also really have to pee.
You should take us. You should take us on a journey right now to go and get some food.
No, I have to make dinner. I haven't
eaten
yet. So no, I'm fine. I'm just tired.
I feel you. Now you're good. It was Chipotle Monday for me, so I'm locked and loaded. I'm ready to take a massive deuce after this.
That's disgusting, and I'm so sick and tired of talking about Jay Monahan and his incompetence.
Yeah, right. It's almost embarrassing. Well, we could talk a lot more about Jay Monahan's incompetence after our segment here on Beer Money. Be sure to stick around for our interview with MondayQInfo. Ryan French, the man behind the infamous Twitter account, talked a lot of things, including the limitation of PGA Tour cards, what it means for the game, and why is it that lower tier golf is so important, and why he covers it. And of course, we discussed a little bit more on the Monahan situation. But we lead off the second half of the show quickly with some Valspar Championship preview. Not much has changed over year. However, it is again a pretty loaded field when you look at the overall viewpoint this week. The Innisbrook Country Club on the Copperhead course. We were talking about this ad nauseum. Basically, one of, if not next to PGA National, the hardest golf course to play on the PGA Tour year in and year out. I was actually looking at the notes in terms of the ratings that these courses get in terms of strength of field as well as the actual course condition, the Valspar is supposed to be the 5th hardest golf course played in the last 3 years on the PGA Tour. The only courses that outtake it are each of the last 3 years, U.S. Open and PGA National. So when you look at it from that aspect, we're inching closer and closer to major season. We're only 2 weeks away. We have the Houston Open, the Valero, and then back to Augusta. This is the final event of the Florida swing. We're finally hitting our stride here. A lot of different pieces to go into winning this event. Bogey avoidance is huge. Par 5 scoring is huge. Narrow fairways, managing to keep the ball in the fairway is going to be huge. As Ben, you've played here before. You've walked the golf course. You have some experience. Tell us what you think is going to be a major factor this week from the pros aspect.
I mean, you summed it up pretty well. Look, I mean, it's like you said, it's one of the hardest courses on the PGA Tour to play. I mean, you shoot 10 under for 4 rounds. There's a very, very good chance you're going to win. It's different from a lot of Florida courses due to the elevation changes. I mean, it's pretty severe. And in that area north of Tampa, I think it's called Palm. I think they're in Palm Harbor. It gets very, very hilly. Even the course where they have the Monday qualifier at Southern Hills, that's another hilly golf course. So look for this course tests all facets of your game. You have to drive it well. The fairways are incredibly narrow. A lot of tree-lined holes. Not the par 5s, albeit you have to score on them. Mm-hmm. Some of them are actually very challenging. Like the first hole is not that difficult of a par 5. I believe it's the 6th hole. Wait.
No. Yeah, it's the blind second shot up the hill.
5. It's 5.
5.
Yeah, the blind second shot where you hit down and you go up and over a hill, but the hole goes to the left. That's a pretty tough hole. Because as we said before, on a downhill tee shot, the ball has more time to curve. Now I know the first hole is also downhill, but you don't have a blind shot into the green. 11 is pretty tough to get there in 2. So you either have to lay it up or hit it in the bunker and try to get it up and down from there. And then 14, I think it is. I think it's 14 is the other par 5. Another long one. The hole kind of snakes around, so it goes out to the right, and then it kind of cuts back, and then it cuts back to the right. I remember Justin Thomas tried to hit driver off the deck there, and he hit one of the worst second shots I've ever seen in my life. I mean, this thing was just, I was like, oh my gosh. But the par 3s are very difficult. They're long. Yeah. That the teeth of the course. Obviously, we have the snake pit.
The final 3 holes.
Yeah. No. It's not the final. I don't think it's the final 3 holes, is it? Yeah. Oh, it is the final 3 holes. That's right. Damn, that's really bad luck for me.
Come on, Ben. You're the resident historian here. You should know all this stuff.
I'm usually really good at the historian stuff. That was not my finer moment. But no, I mean, the last 3 holes obviously are very difficult, but all the par 3s are tough with the exception of, I believe, the first one in the front 9 is just like a short iron. Mm-hmm. But like I said, I mean, those last 3 holes, man, 16, I mean, the amount of times I have seen players just bail out long and left off the tee and hit it into the trees, it's a lot. And then 17, it's like you're hitting a long iron and you're hitting through a chute, and it's a tough hole, narrow green as well. It's a very narrow green. And then 18, it's uphill, and you're, like I said, a lot of those holes out there, you feel like you're hitting it through out of a chute, basically. So, and that green is incredibly undulating as well. Those greens are pretty difficult to putt on. So it's going to test all the skills this week. The best player will win for sure. So
yeah, those par 3s are really the hardest part in my opinion. I mean, of course, the scoring on par 5s are going to be huge, but the par 3s, the fact that you're content with making it out with barely a par for the most part. I believe that the par 3s have the highest scoring average on the course, with the exception of the snake pit overall. Scores in the past: Sam Burns won back-to-back 2021-22 at 17 under. Taylor Moore, listen to this. This is actually a stat that I found really crazy. Taylor Moore last year went 64 of 64 for putts inside of 10 feet.
That's insane.
Absolutely insane. Won the event at only 10 under par.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
So bogey avoidance is so magnanimously big. Even in prior years, when Jordan Spieth won in 15, it was only 10 under. When Paul Casey went back to back, it was 10 under and 8 under. So you're going to see a very low score winning this event. And it really comes down to the ability to avoid bogeys and capitalize on all your opportunities. With that being said, we're going to jump into beer money, brought to you by our friends over at Kenwood Beer. Only 120 calories, 8 grams of carbs. Some call it the best light beer they've ever had. We just say you can't beat the original. Head to kenwoodbeer.com. Use the Kenny Tracker to find where you can get your hands on some ice cold, refreshing Kenwood beer from your favorite liquor stores in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, now Maryland, and from the Wells Fargo Center and beyond. Must be 21 years of age to drink and as well to gamble. Please drink responsibly, and let's get into the action. Top 20 this week. Ben, you're down by 3. You've openly told me that you were going blind this week. Very interesting new strategy you've got.
Yeah, I just want to apologize to anyone who's ever listened to me on Beer Money, even though I've said numerous times that Beer Money is just not my thing. Professional golf is my thing. The only form of gambling I like to partake in is
strip poker.
No. You idiot.
Am I close?
It is roulette.
Ew, that's the worst kind of gambling.
Shut up and let me finish. Damn it, Steven.
Go play some baccarat or some shit.
My form of gambling is going to the casino alone, playing roulette, sober, and not talking to anyone.
100 on black.
I use, and my strategy is so simple. I make the bare minimum bets every single time. And then once I get in a little bit of a heater, then I'll start throwing some money around and stuff. And then I've had some good nights. I've had some very, very good nights, but I can never go with people to the casino. When I used to go in Cincinnati, because they have a Hard Rock like 5 minutes from campus.
Oh God!
Oh, it was awesome, man. I would go by myself sometimes. The best was when I would go by myself. Oh man, it was awesome.
Do you have any great casino stories?
I saw someone get taken out by security one time. That was kind of funny. There was a kid that was sitting next to me, and I could tell it was one of his first times at the casino. I could just tell. And I was at one of those I was playing roulette, but it was on a screen, and you had the guy up on the stage. He would spin the ball on the stage. You had a camera. And I was just rolling. And this kid, he just kept looking at whatever I was doing. And he was literally fucking copying me every single time. I thought it was so funny. I was like, oh, I feel kind of like a boss right now.
I went to go cover Quinnipiac for the MAC tournament in 2021 during COVID. And at the time, the Iona Gales were the best college basketball team in the MAC. They were coached by the one and only Rick Pitino.
Oh, yeah.
And when Drake once famously said Rick Pitino had taken the strip clubs to casinos, he was not joking around. They won the MAC title. And I'm getting dinner with my friends, and I see Rick Pitino walk out of the strip club with 2 of his players.
Oh, yeah.
And immediately go to the right and turn back into the Bally's. And I'm like, I can only imagine what they're doing. 3 hours later, it's 1:30 in the morning. I'm a little bit tipsy off of some drinks. And I see Rick Pitino in the full white suit.
Oh, yeah.
Sitting at the baccarat table going, monkey, 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 with the Asian ladies around him. It was hilarious.
He is, that
that was on a bender.
That St. John's athletic department, now that he's at St. John's, that St. John's athletic department is kind of interesting. I've heard some stories. That's part of the reason I didn't go there, because I was just like, I am not going to. I mean, I entrusted my future in Xavier, and it's not like the athletic department served me much better. But got to tell you what, man, the stories that I heard from people regarding St. John's was pretty interesting, to say the least.
I can only imagine.
It was interesting. I'm not going to say it on air.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah.
So Ben, as we dig into our beer money here, top 20, who are you taking?
Going with a safe pick, Sam Ryder, baby. I love Sam Ryder for top 20s every single week.
God, it's like fucking death and taxes for you. It's like a fucking drug. I'm gonna ride with Christian Bezadenhout for a top 20. Top 20s at basically every big event so far this year, including a PGA National. Finished top 20 of the Players. Finished top 20 of the American Express. I like Bezadenhout at 220 to finish top 20. Top 10.
Adam Hadwin, baby. That's my top 10.
It's a good pick. I like that. I'm going to ride with Tony Finau, the fourth best approach player on tour. He's also probably the longest hitter in the field this week, I would say. So I'm digging Tony. Again, more value, plus 260. Top 5.
Man, I'm kind of torn on this one. Like, I don't want to be like too big of a douche.
Xander Schauffele.
Yeah, Xander Schauffele. The reason why is because I'm not going to pick him.
Can't figure him to win because everybody blows the lead.
No. Can I change my pick?
Yes. Oh, yeah, of course.
All right. I'm going to go with Keegan Bradley for a top 5.
Oh, okay. I liked Keegan. He had a really bad week. He missed the cut by a mile this past week.
Week, maybe. Not really, because it's one of the hardest courses on tour. But
no, Keegan's biggest issue for months at this point, his ball striking game has been phenomenal. It's all been the putter.
Yeah,
like he missed the cut because I think he made triple on like one of his final holes. I think actually on 18. I think it might have been. I think he may have found the water and made triple like early on. Just didn't make the cut. I think he shot out like 6 over the 2 days. All been the putter. Everything else has been phenomenal. Top 5 for me. I'm gonna go with the multi-time winner at this golf course, Sam Burns. Surprisingly, is plus 280 for top 5. Again, fifth best player in the world, and when one of them plays for LIV, I mean, top 4 seems like a pretty good shot in the cards. Give me a pick this week.
I don't even know if this is possible. Xander Schauffele to be in the top 5 after round 2.
So make the weekend top 5.
Yes, after round 2, after 36 holes of play, he will be in the top 5.
So for those of you that obviously before the show, I told Ben that I would give him Xander Schauffele to finish outside of the top 3 this week. Clearly, he's not convinced that he will finish. He's convinced he'll finish second again, and will absolutely bite him in the ass.
Yeah, 100%. Because I keep getting bitten in the ass anyway by these beer money pick games. They're so stupid. I suck at them.
We're going to turn around, and honestly, I would not be surprised in the slightest if Xander Schauffele wins this week, just to shut everyone up. Believe it or not, the second best scoring average on the PGA Tour is where I'm going with the gimme. Could you guess who it is? I know you know who it is, but
if you say Doug Gim, you're right.
If you said Doug Gim, it's right. Plus 190 for a top 20 for Doug Gim, the second best scoring average on the PGA Tour, only behind Scottie Scheffler. Would you ever fucking believe that? If I told you that 10 years ago, you'd be like, who the fuck's that? Your winner this week is Valspar.
Who do you think I am? That guy was a stud in high school. Are you kidding me?
School. Oh, I'm sure he was great.
Yeah, he was great.
He plays pro golf now. I'm sure he was pretty fucking good.
Okay.
Your winner this week.
At plus 4,500.
Ooh, big play. I like this.
Bo Hostler, baby.
Bro, you're getting so gutsy dead down 3. You're just eyeing wins.
Bro, I could totally see it happening. He might be the most unathletic specimen you've ever seen in professional golf. His grandmother even said back when he played in the U.S. Open in high school, I believe it was, that he was completely unathletic. So you know it's true when grandma says it. Bo Hostler for the win, baby. Let's go.
Bo Hostler looks like a NASCAR driver.
He does, doesn't he?
He looks like he belongs on a dirt track in the middle of like Omaha, Nebraska. Also, his photos of him in college when he played at Texas, he has the biggest baby face, and he wore that fucking visor.
I know.
Oh, what a fucking dude! All right, so you're taking Bo Hostler. You want to talk about someone who also can't win on the PGA Tour, not named Xander Schauffele? I'm going to take Cameron Young this week to get his first PGA Tour win. We say this like every 2 or 3 weeks. So, first PGA Tour win, first win, first win, first win. If there's 1 week you're gonna fucking do it, you have Xander Schauffele who can't finish first, JT who's top of the leaderboard and will not finish in the top 5, and then at that point it's like, all right, cool. You can beat out Sam Burns, you can beat out Tony Finau, and you can beat out I don't even know who else is even high up on this odds board. Brian Harmon, Jordan Spieth is 16-1. I don't know how he is. He's also had a underwhelming year. Sanjay Im, like Cameron Young at 2,700 is a really strong play. I'll take Cameron Young this week.
Cool.
So there you go.
Bo Hostler's gonna win. You watch, dude. You watch.
Folks, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Exclusive interview with Ryan French, aka Monday Golf, MondayQInfo. Jeez, I'm fucking everything up today. Don't go anywhere, folks. Stephen Ben here on Getting the Hole. Welcome back to Getting the Hole here with Ben and Steve. With all the chatter of Rory McIlroy and Wyndham Clark vying for the 100-man field, the closing down of access to the PGA Tour, me and Ben had to bring on an expert to discuss all things about it. I want to introduce Ryan French, the man behind MondayQInfo. You can find him on all socials at A Case of the Golf 1, one of the funnier handles around. Ryan, welcome into the show. Thank you for joining us to discuss all of this. It's really I guess polarizing to say the least, especially when Rory McIlroy says it. And I know Ben's got a disdain for him, and it's been well known on this show how Ben feels about Rory. But your initial take on all of these comments, where do you think that fits in? And is there any possibility that it actually could happen?
Yeah, first of all, guys, thanks for having me on. I think both the comments stink. Now, let me kind of separate them. One, Rory, I don't like the comments, but I like the fact that he speaks his mind for the most part. It got him in trouble. He kind of got us stabbed in the back. He has kind of more of a say. He's always been a top player. He's always driven sales. He's always driven tickets. He's always driven TV, right? I still don't agree with it. I think all of these guys are leaving behind what the PGA Tour has done well forever. But Wyndham really bothers me because Wyndham, until 2.5 years ago, was one of the people that he's now trying to eliminate from fields, right? Mm-hmm. And he finished 110th, 87th. I was working on a stat today that, one of his best finishes in those early years was at the Genesis, was a T8. It's an event he wouldn't even have gotten into had the fields been like they are now. So it's kind of the Billy Horschel said something similar a while back. And these guys forget where they came from, right? Like Billy Horschel went to Q school 4 or 5 times, and that's not a shot at Billy. It's just that pro golf is a progression. And it is absolutely wild to me, guys, that they are losing stars yet are trying to emulate the very tour that everyone, by all accounts, is not gaining popularity. Now, they've made an impact in pro golf. There is no doubt LIV has. But they don't have viewers. They're struggling to find footing. And the PGA Tour going away from what has brought them to this point completely and emulate what LIV is doing is just boggles my mind. Again, I'm not saying the tour doesn't need to change. I appreciate they have a competitor now, but the comments are just forgetting what has brought the PGA Tour to this point, in my opinion.
Do you almost think, because I believe it's hypocritical, because the goal is to unify the game, right? And so, look, by unifying it, you would effectively create a monopoly once again. and we know that can have its downsides, at least in the world of business, especially with consumers and customers. But do you think that it's almost hypocritical that the PGA Tour has the goal of unifying the game, but some of the star players, and I would say Rory is obviously ahead of Wyndham Clark in the star category. Would you say that it's almost hypocritical at this point for those comments to be made? Because it just, and not to cut you off, but it looks like they're just going. It doesn't look like anybody's on the same page.
Yeah, I mean, I think all of us, yes. I mean, again, back to Wyndham, I think it's hypocritical from Rory. Again, I tweeted out, I just picked a random year. I think it was 2016 and 17. You know who won all the events or multi-event stars? Like Rory won all of his events. Again, there's limited fields events mixed in there, the Tour Championship and those kind of things. But for the most part, a lot of his wins have come in full fields. Like the best players are the best players for a reason. They're going to win a large majority of the time. And again, back to Wyndham, I think it's especially Wyndham has quickly forgotten that, for a long time, he was hanging on to his card, playing opposite field events, the things that guys do. And again, it's not a shot at Wyndham. It's just part of the process. And I think we lose, I wrote an article, I wrote a letter to Rory per se. It's like Max Homa was four holes away from losing his Korn Ferry card. And birdie 4 of the last 5, made the cut, got his card, is now definitely a star, not a top 5 player, but he draws eyeballs. And where did those guys fall? How do we develop stars? If Nick Dunlap doesn't win, where does Nick Dunlap fall in the 80 player, 70 player fields? It's such I struggle getting away from what has brought the PGA Tour here. Again, they have a competitor. I'm not saying they don't need to change. It's just change completely what you've done for decades is wildly out of, and again, they can't afford it. They're doing things they can't afford. So keep the business side even out of it, because that's another whole nother level, but they're doing stuff they can't afford. So it's, I feel like there has been no plan. I feel like players are infighting, and as fans, I think we're all tired of all the fighting across the board.
There's been so much polarization from the creation of LIV, and whether or not, like, I saw a funny tweet. It's like the people who support LIVGolf are the ones who don't actually watch LIVGolf. Like the idea that it's become, and I mentioned this probably a couple weeks ago on the show. It's almost like how we are currently in politics, where you have two sides that can never meet eye to eye and have constructive conversations. It's the same thing now with the PGA versus LIV, and the players don't really care. At the end of the day, they're all still friendly. They all still play together. The fight would actually be, hey, we want the best players in the world at every single event. And for the three of us, I know we're all golf junkies. We follow this sport through and through every single week. But I had the talk with some friends. Like, I think when Matthew Pavon won the Farmers, it was like, oh, like, who is this guy? And I have all my friends who are average top core 4 sports fans, college sports fans, are like, I've never heard of this guy. And I'm like, yeah, because it's a new compelling story and it's something that's interesting. And it's, for us, it's great because we get new faces that get to come into the frame. When Ben Coles does good after umpteen years playing through Q School and the Korn Ferry Tour and so on, it's great for us. But when ratings even at like Bay Hill are down 1/3 from what it was last year, yeah, the stars are going, but new stars are emerging every single day. And I've been fighting people on this idea. Do you think it's people's desire to want to just see those top 50 guys at the front of the leaderboard? Because even then, there's no guarantee that Max Homa is going to play well and make the weekend to begin with. Even now, Will Zalatoris, I think, is on the verge of missing the cut at the Players, albeit a different event. But it can happen literally any week.
Yeah, I mean, again, someone tweeted out to me is the year they tried to make it limited fields, the less stars win, right? Like all of these years, again, I went back, like I just picked 4 or 5 random years. Top stars win, 80% of the fields. And now this year it's not. But again, that is the PGA Tour. Can Jake Knapp be a star? Can Nick Dunlap be a star by all? I mean, Nick Dunlap's been the best player in the world since he's 12 years old, right? Like the kid shot 59 when he was in 7th grade. He's a star at Alabama. He won first time as an amateur. Like, just develop new stars. That's what the PGA Tour does. Like, is it? I don't even know if it's bad luck. It's just the way it is. Like, and again, limited fields have faced the same. Right? You know, Chris Kirk is a great story, but he sure is not a star. So they have these limited fields. Again, when the best players play the best, they win. 200-player fields, 155-player fields, or 80-player fields. And they're going to do it most often. So I just don't get it. I'll never get it. I don't know.
You know, you guys kind of almost bled into my next question, because obviously there's an understanding in golf where your shelf life, regardless of your stature in the game, whether you're just a PGA Tour kind of like staple who finished it, like a Sam Ryder almost, who finishes kind of like middle of the pack every year in the FedEx Cup, or you're like an actual star like a Rory or a Scheffler, everyone has a prime. And I think the prime window in golf, I heard I believe it was Brandel Chambly. He said your best golf is generally played from 26 to 31. Now, depending, I would assume on your talent level, like someone like Rory, who's going to be 35, I think his prime, he's still kind of in his prime, but it's definitely on the back nine, you know? Mm-hmm. At some point, these stars that went to live or are still on the PGA Tour, they're all going to age. And everyone physically and emotionally, they age differently and they age at different times. Do you think that the idea of limiting the 100 player, limiting it to like 100 PGA Tour cards, you'd almost be stunning the growth of potential stars? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, again, I mean, I tweet this out all the time, right? Is like, if you think of some of the best players in the world, it took time for them to get there. So, you know, now Wyndham touched and said 100 cards and with some limited fields, you know, if maybe 100 cards might be the right number, but fields need to be 156. You need to fill that with whatever way you're going to do it, right? You go back to the days of rabbits where, you know, there's a huge Monday qualifiers and 25 fields, and you take the top 10 from the Korn Ferry each week, whatever that is. Again, getting away from full fields, you know, I'm totally against. But 100%. I mean, Wyndham's a great example of that. He finished 110th, 87th, 79th, played on the Korn Ferry Tour for a while. Max almost lost his card. Jake Knapp, I mean, like, if Jake Knapp goes on in 5 years, we go on and go, holy shit, Jake Knapp's won 5 times. We're going to look back and go, injured, played like crap on Canada, played decent on Canada, played like crap on the Korn Ferry Tour, played good on Korn Ferry Tour, finally got his card and came into his own. Mm-hmm. Do we, in this world where it's 50 or 80, we're not going to see Jake Knapps. And again, Rory said, oh, the best of the best. Is Rory the best of the best? How do you leave is, you know, because Jake Knapp wouldn't be developed to where he is now if all the fields were the best of the best. I don't know, you know, again, what it's going to be is the most marketable and not the best of the best, right? That's what LIV is. It doesn't matter what you shoot on LIV. And again, you can say what you want about LIV. You can like it. I like Monday qualifiers, so I can't complain about people who like LIV. But they don't have to, they're not playing for anything. They're already locked in, a majority of their players, right? So it's like, that's what the PGA Tour is going to turn into. Because if Rory has 3 bad years in a row, is Rory out of this best of the best? Or, you know, it's just they're trying to create a second LIV, and I don't get it.
I think what's fascinating too is that, and I've made note of this as well, if you go back to the early 2000s, right, the variation and the ability to win an event, I think, has grown exponentially. It used to be 6 or 7 guys who could win every single week in circa 2000. Now, all of a sudden, the number is 40, 45 guys, and you have random players who, yes, you can get hot one week, but again, you're seeing the consistency growing. and more players who have that elite potential. And it comes with the enhancements in training and the ability to work on your game. And some guys are longer hitters than others. And I think Ben makes a good point. As you age out, eventually, like what Rory's saying is going to come to bite him on the ass. Or like Wyndham Clark, again, didn't get on tour until he was 30 years old. Took him 10 years to get here. Eventually, your window is going to close. And I think the interesting is like with that ability to have more guys win, it almost seems like some of these top players are almost scared for job security. It sounds crazy, but eventually it might become even more to 60, 70, 80 guys who have a chance to win. And again, new stars are growing every day. Victor Hovland came on the scene 4 years ago. Colin Morikawa. We have new guys now with PGA Tour U. Ludwig Ober took 11 months to reach the top 10. Like and the guy's already hasn't even reached his full potential when you really think about it. Do you think that as we get more and more into this, and while yes, there is that factor of creating a second live, which I don't think any of us want, do you think the PGA Tour should also make more of an effort if they do go this route to open up more of those opposite field events to at the very least keep the development going, like having more, I guess for every signature event, you have something kind of like the Puerto Rico Open or the Barbasol.
I just don't, yes, but I don't know if the economics make sense, right? Like where does the Corn Ferry Tour and the second PGA, secondary PGA Tour become one? Mm-hmm. Again, what we're doing is taking, away at playing. We're taking away a chance for players to develop, and we're taking away playing opportunities. I say this all the time about the NBA. Like the 12th guy isn't selling any tickets, right? He comes on the court. No one cares for the most part. There's very core fans like we all are in golf that care. Doesn't mean he shouldn't be part of the team. The NBA is not like, hey, we need to go to the top 8 players. Oh, like the 12th guy is vital in the team. And I appreciate that's a team sport, but this is also this is what the PGA Tour has been built on. So I hope there's a plan if they go to 80 players. I hope there's a true developmental program. I hope we're not headed to, the PGA Tour of 80 guys, 90 guys, and then a AAA where that's where Nick Dunlap would be, and he's called up, and it's not based on, just scores. I've always said golf is the most democratic sport in the world, right? No one cares where you went to school. No one cares how tall, how far you hit it, good parts of your game, bad parts of your game. Go shoot X score, and you're going to be in. It's the Monday qualifier. Like, no one cares. Just go shoot one of the 4 best scores, and you're going to play in a PGA Tour event. So I just hope we don't get too far away from that.
Yeah, I mean, I have one last thing to say. You guys bring up a great point regarding the development of players, and I think due to the economy situation being what it is, a lot of mini tours have actually folded. And I know, Ryan, you know that probably better than anyone, because this is what you do. I remember it was the Florida Elite Tour. After probably 5 or 6 years, all of a sudden they just folded, right? And so then what happens is that leaves, at least in the Central Florida area, and I know this is just like a microscopic kind of area that I'm focusing on, but then that leaves 2 tours, the Moonlight Tour and the Florida Pro Tour. Well, both tours have actually jacked up their entry fees, and their purses are still the same as well for the most part. And so because there are fewer events and because the entry fees are more, even like there used to be PGA Tour Canada, China, Latin America. Now it's just the Americas Tour, basically, where they combined everything into one. There are less opportunities for pros to develop their game, and I feel like the tour should take the responsibility, because it is the PGA Tour, and they do have. Look, I mean, it's not what it was obviously 4 years ago before LIV kind of just came out of nowhere in a way, but there needs to be some type of development for younger guys if we're going to move towards like limited number of PGA Tour cards, and if we're going to do like a minor league system almost.
Yeah. Ben, I hope they change, but my interaction with the PGA Tour is they just don't care about the guys outside of the top, whatever that number is, right? I think it varies 30, 50. They just don't care. And to be fair to them, there's an eternal vacuum that will fill those spots, right?
Right.
There's a million guys who can fit. And I don't mean that like the guys who finish 80th can definitely come to the top 5. But for the most part, the 80th guy on the PGA Tour, whoever he is currently, leaves. There's another guy who's just as capable to finish 80th, right? Now, they might lose stars. And to your point, there's no way to make money on mini tours anymore, as you know. It used to be the Hooters Tour where top 15 guys could make a living, and it went to the next year. If you break even on many tours in a season, you are killing it.
That's a damn good year.
Right. So it's like you can't all these opportunities are gone. And I hope the PGA Tour realizes that they're losing potential stars, right? Maybe it's 1 out of 10,000 or 1 out of 5,000. I don't know. But the fact is there's plenty of stars, Norman Zhang, right? Norman Zhang was the next Tiger Woods by his golf coaches at Oregon. Casey Martin said it.
Mm-hmm.
Took him 9 years to get to the PGA Tour. Can he become a star? He has the talent for sure, whether it happens or not. So where does Norman fit in? Where do guys like Norman fit in? If Nick Dunlap doesn't make it, like, again, you got to give time and a place for guys to develop. That's just all there is to it. It's not a game. Any sport, you have a place to develop.
Of course.
I hope that continues.
My final thing for you, Ryan, as LIV grows and as it expands, do you think that while the PGA Tour might get its wish and go to smaller field events, but as LIV grows and more guys realize I can actually get paid and I can get my caddy's fees and my arrangements and travel all paid for, where clearly the PGA Tour doesn't care about the next generation, do you think it's, as LIV grows, will the PGA Tour ever turn around and say, you know what, we actually do need to give more to the younger folks in order to maintain some of the talent pool that's going to inevitably go to LIV and grow that far more than the PGA Tour could right now?
Yeah, guys, this is a long, deep. We could fill another 15 minutes, but I've always said LIV taking young guys is way more detrimental to the PGA Tour than taking older guys. Now, obviously, Rahm and Cam Smith and those guys are stars, but Phil and Lee Westwood and Ian Poulter on the back half. Like Caleb Surratt, people can complain, and it's hard to judge how good he is now because we don't know where he fits in LIV and all those things. But Caleb Surratt is a star. End of story. Mm-hmm. Now, that doesn't mean he would have necessarily been a multi-team PGA Tour winner, but he has the talent, and he was on that path. And so they lose guys like David Puig and Caleb Surratt. If they're losing young guys, that, to me, is way more detrimental to the PGA Tour than losing guys on the back half of their career. So the PGA Tour better dig in. It's the same thing. Like how Nick Dunlap is not the head. Again, I get the top guys. Whatever that is, if there's a level 1 for social media stars that they push, why Nick Dunlap is not 1A, I don't know. I don't know why they don't have a camera in that kid's face from the time he steps on the thing. Like, he is what the PGA Tour needs. A young guy who just broke a record from 1992, has been a star from the time he was 12 years old. Like, by all accounts, he's going to be a star. So take a chance and market the kid. Like, they won't even, because he won it as an AM, he doesn't even get in the most of the good tee times. So it's like, dude, what are we doing here? You guys have changed every effing rule that you've had. You can't change to like get the kid that has the potential to be a star so you can market him. Like, get him on TV every day. Get Jake Knapp. Make these guys a star. I just don't. I'll never get it. So I hope they dive in on the development. I hope they start marketing these guys. I don't hold a lot of hope, but I hope that's the case. In all, I just hope pro golf comes back together. We're headed down the open wheel for the very few people that follow open wheel racing. They divided 25 years ago, and open wheel racing has never regained popularity. even though they came back together. And golf is headed down that path. Just more and more, what I would call casual fans just don't watch anymore. They're going to watch the Masters, the U.S. Open, maybe some select events, but we're losing fans. And I think all of us, I assume the three of us in this room are tired of the fighting. So let's just get pro golf back together and then figure out the future.
I have one final thing. Does Jay Monahan need to go in order for it to change?
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
I was waiting for that.
It just boggles my effing mind that the guy still has a job. It boggles my mind. It's truly staggering. I don't know what he has on who, but it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. It's
unbelievable. The guy's absolutely ineffable. It's crazy.
How can one of your top players say they still don't have trust? We're 6 months removed. How has that happened? Like, if one board member has has lost trust of a CEO, AT&T, whatever, he's gone. CEOs change all the time. For exact scenarios like this, like, okay, let's get some fresh leadership. Maybe they think Jay did a great job. It's time for a change. It staggers me that he's still in,
and yet he still has the ownership of the and yet he'll have the ownership of the eventual for-profit entity. Ryan, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate the time. Hope we can have you on again to chat a little bit more and dig a little deeper, because of course we could talk about this stuff for hours on end, but we got to let you go. Sure. Ryan, thank you for your time. Again, you can follow him at A Case of the Golf 1, MondayQInfo. Check them out. Absolute best at providing all updates on the lower levels of golf and the Monday qualifiers and the grinders who have to fight their way, and not the Rory McIlroys who can dick around and say whatever the hell they want until the cows come home. Ryan, thank you again.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening to Get in the Hole, the official golf podcast of Underground Sports Philadelphia. Catch us every week wherever you get your favorite podcasts, and be sure to like and subscribe on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Get in the Hole Pod, and follow Underground Sports Philadelphia at Underground PHI. We'll see you next time. And remember, get in the hole!